Hey everybody, welcome to our premiere of our first series of programs to share tips about the meetings and events industry, as well as feature inspirational and motivational topics to help you grow both professionally and personally. The program is brought to you by Here's Chicago.com, connecting meeting and event planners with meeting and event suppliers. And don't forget, June 3rd is our kickoff event to the summer. We'll have about 250 meeting and event professionals at Howells and Hood, which is actually at the base of the Chicago Tribune Tower. It's got room for 400 people inside, private event space in the back, and then it also has an outdoor area for 300. So if it's a nice day, we're actually going to be in and outdoors on June 3rd. So you can register right now. Just go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Here's Chicago. Also, our end of the summer bash. I know people laugh when I start talking about the end of the summer bash because it's really, what, May? But we start the promotion for the end of the summer bash now because people think, wait, Jim, don't talk about the end of the summer. But it is. It's end of the summer blues bash this year, and what better place to have it than Buddy Guy's Legends in the South Loop. That will be happening on August 22nd. So don't forget to follow us on Twitter, here, twitter.com/Here's Chicago. You've got our Facebook page. Also, if you search LinkedIn, we actually have the largest Chicago meeting and events group on LinkedIn, and it's called the Chicago Meetings and Events Industry. So check that out. Join, apply. You won't get in right away. We have to approve you. We've got about 100 or so to approve now, but that's over 4,000 members. And then, of course, Google+. Here we are. We signed up today through our Chicago event planning group on Google+. So if you're not a Google+ member, it's free to join. Set yourself up for a profile, and it's actually really good for SEO too, for search engine optimization. So put up a little profile and then join the Chicago event planning group on Google+, and we're going to have more and more of these programs to come. Like I said, this is our first, so bear with us. If something happens technically, be with me. We'll get better at this every time. But we're so happy to have as our first guest now to our program Tana Goertz, and she is actually let me go to her bio here. Tana is an internationally recognized entrepreneur, speaker, radio host, author, project manager, and success coach. Tana attracted national attention when she appeared for 18 weeks on NBC's The Apprentice with Donald Trump, chosen from 1 million applicants to vie for a position at the Trump Organization. Tana became one of the finalists and was also the winner of the Street Smarts team. She is also known as a finalist in another hit reality show, Fear Factor. So let's go ahead and welcome Tana, everybody. Hey, Tana.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. We're glad to have you. And I had to play a little of this for you.
I love that song. I love it.
Does that make you feel at home?
Oh, when I hear that, it's like it makes my heart just pound. It brings me right back to what I had to deal with in New York City, and that's scary stuff.
So we had talked not too long ago, and I don't know how we originally connected. Maybe it actually was through LinkedIn.
It was through LinkedIn. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And I saw your audition reel as well. You have an audition reel that's online. You can actually find it on YouTube. And yes. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, if I were going to hire a salesperson, it would be you, Tana.
Oh, thank you. You know, I knew it was going to be a hit because I wanted to do something completely different. And when Mr. Trump saw that, he was like, find me that girl. Because nobody had ever done it. Nobody had ever applied to be on a show and did it the way I did it. You know, I was selling makeup to men, but at car dealerships where technically the sharks of the sales force work and, you know, the killers are at. Well, I wanted to prove that here's this nice lady who's a mother who's also a killer saleswoman. I could go in there and sell them makeup for their wives for Mother's Day 3 months in advance. And none of it was staged or scripted. And I busted into car dealerships and sold those men that makeup. And Trump was like, find me this fearless woman. And it paid off.
Go ahead.
And it paid off. So I was so thrilled that that video actually got me cast on the show. The video did it all.
Well, absolutely. I mean, after watching that video, I don't know who wouldn't hire you. I mean, it was unbelievable the way you went in there, and you just, I mean, the way you sold wasn't selling um, the product. You were selling kind of on emotion, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was selling an experience. I was selling, I mean, I was selling myself because that's a hard sell, selling men makeup. And then also selling it 3 months in advance when these men weren't planning on buying. So it was fun. I mean, I just pulled out everything that I knew about sales, and it was like I negotiated, and I was convincing them that they needed this product that I had to sell, and it paid off.
So what do you think about the whole Celebrity Apprentice thing? I mean, you were season 3. That was back in 2005.
I know.
So what do you think now about the whole celebrity thing?
Well, I don't like the Celebrity Apprentice. I mean, I'm always going to be an Apprentice fan. I tune into the show to see people actually go through the brainstorming process, to go through the negotiation. I love seeing who the leaders are, who the followers are. I love seeing the go-getters. I love seeing the people that are sneaking underneath the radar. I just love learning about people, the psychology of the show. Of course, I love watching Trump. I love listening to Ivanka and Don Jr. Because I know them. You know, George Ross, I love seeing how hard he is on people. But I don't like the concept of the celebrity because it's not a real true representation of The Apprentice. When we went, they stripped us of our cell phones, our wallets, our contacts, our cameras, everything. And they more or less sent us, well, they did send us out on the streets of New York with not a dollar to our name, not a resource to our name, not a phone number to call your friends in New York City to say, yo, can you help me out? And the Celebrity Apprentice, it's just like, who has the biggest Rolodex? And so it's not a representation of street smarts, entrepreneurial skills, communication skills, negotiation skills. It's just who's got the most money. So I don't like it for that concept, but I pray and I do believe that they'll have an Apprentice All-Stars for regular people, and I know I'll go back. And I'm going to kick some more butt.
Yeah, and you did kick butt. I mean, that last challenge you had, it had something to do with Best Buy?
The last challenge to get into the finale was for the Olympics. I was putting on a bid to have the Olympics come to New York City. And that was just, that was such a killer task. It was just unbelievable, the magnitude of that task. But I never worked for Best Buy. I worked for everything from Burger King to Domino's to Dove to Nescafe to American Eagle to you name it. 15 businesses.
Wow. And then tell us a little bit about Fear Factor. I mean, a lot of people watch that show as well.
Yeah, Fear Factor was a gift from Donald Trump. What happened was I got a call one day from the producers of Fear Factor, and they said, hey, listen, we're doing a reality stars Fear Factor. We've asked Trump who would he think would be a good representation of The Apprentice. We're looking for 2 people from the show. And he said, oh, have Tana Goertz do it. She's very competitive. She's a mother. She's fit. She'll do it. And I was like, Fear Factor? You got to be kidding me. And they go, well, there's $10,000 just for saying that you'll be a contestant and getting off the plane. I'm like, well, what's the prize money? And they said $150,000 that you would have to share with a partner. And I said, a partner? Who would be my partner? And they wanted to pair me up with a guy that I didn't appreciate and didn't like. I didn't like his style, who was a former Apprentice contestant, not my season, but another guy. And I think he was a joke. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I'll tell you what. I'll go on your show if you let me pick the contestant. Oh, no. We don't do it that way, Tana. We want to pair you up with him. And I was like, no, I smell a rat. I don't feel this is going to be for the best interest of me. It's for the best interest of the viewers because I don't like that guy. And that guy actually called me an Iowa hick. And I'm not from Iowa, and I'm no hick, so I didn't appreciate him. So I told the producers, that's not the way it'll go down, and if you don't let me pick my teammate, then I'm not going to go. And they said, that's not how we do it. I said, well, then I'm probably not your girl. Hung up. 2 hours later, they called back and said, all right, who would you pick? I said, I'll tell you who I'd pick. Craig from my season, who was strong. He was a competitor. He was a father, and I knew the money would mean a lot to him, and I knew he was capable of doing the tasks and doing them well. And they let me pick him, and we went and we made it to the finale.
Well, yeah, I mean, you did a tremendous job on that season. I've watched every season of The Apprentice, and you're right. I like the original Apprentice. I mean, these people are working really hard. And I mean, it's a little different now, maybe a little overproduced, but I think they chose entertainment over what you were actually doing.
Right, and I asked them that. I said, why are we not going back to the regular Apprentice? And they told me that, say, for example, Trace Adkins. Trace Adkins can bring in over 1 million fans just to watch Trace. They don't care about The Apprentice, and they don't care about the task. They're just going to watch their favorite. So they're getting more ratings doing it that way, where I'm like, let's go back to the real way. But, you know, I'm not the deciding factor. They're the boss, and it's their show.
Well, I do hope they come out with the Apprentice All-Stars, because we'll all be watching, that's for sure. Let's get into this a little bit. You know, from the basement to the boardroom. By the way, happy belated Mother's Day. I know you have 2 kids, right?
Yes, I do. Oh my gosh, yes, I do. 2 teenagers.
2 teenagers, and what are their names?
Miles is my boy who's just graduating in 1 week. He's going to Iowa, University of Iowa. And then I have a daughter, Tori. She's a freshman in high school.
Okay, and currently you reside in Des Moines, as we say. If you say Illinois, we're going to say Des Moines, right?
Yeah, I live in Des Moines, Iowa, exactly.
Okay, all right. So we've got from the basement to the boardroom. So let's do this. Let's start from the basement.
Okay, yeah, let's go down and work our way up.
We can work our way up, and you know, looking at this, Jared, your assistant, had sent this over. And boy, I read this and I was just floored, blown away. I didn't know, even during our conversations. But this is what I kind of term 6 feet below status quo at this point.
Right.
You're at a low point in your life. And you know, that's why I think it's probably a really good Mother's Day, every Mother's Day. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how you started, and you know, what got you into what gave you that motivation to actually try out for the shows and get to where you are today?
Okay, well, that's a great place to start. Well, what happened was I went away to college, and I chose to overlook some red flags in a gentleman that I was dating. And they were big red flags. You know, they were flagging and they were waving, and they were serious red flags. But I'm a woman and I'm a nurturer, and I thought I could fix somebody, I guess is what it was, or I wanted to help somebody. And I chose to marry a man who was not good for me, who was never going to be good for me, for the reasons, like I said. I think I wanted to help him and I wanted to fix him. And I lived 8 years with this man who, we had a lot of fun, and life was exciting and very stimulating on the outside, but on the inside, he wasn't a good guy for me. He drank a lot, so he was an alcoholic. He played with drugs, and I don't tolerate that and didn't want to tolerate that, but I did for the sake of my marriage. And I realized that this is not the lifestyle that I wanted. I've never been a drinker. I never took a sip of alcohol in high school. I've never done drugs. And so this was not of my normal character. But I was seduced by the charismatic personality. And I feel like I was kind of conned into marrying him. Like, he sold me, the killer saleswoman, on how great he was. And he was, without all those problems, but with him came those problems. And so I lived with him, was married to him, dated him for 4 years, married him 8 years. And throughout those years, the progression of, I don't want to call it abuse, even though that's really what it was. When I think of abuse, I don't think of mental abuse, but in a sense it was degrading and never letting me live my dreams and sort of always putting a lid on me. And I've always been a huge personality with big dreams and big aspirations and big goals. And this person was saying no, no. And I realized really quickly in my marriage, like a lot of people do, not just women, it's easier to give in than to fight. And I'm a peacemaker, and I like to keep the peace, and I don't like yelling, and I don't like raising my voice and getting all worked up. So I just subdued my needs for someone else's, and I tolerated that for, as I said, 8 years, and realized now I brought children into the equation. I had a son, and it wasn't working well when I was married and had the baby, but of course, I shouldn't say of course, some women like myself think that I'm trapped, I want another child, I guess I'll just bring another child into the world and live miserably with a man that doesn't love me, and I'm losing respect daily for him. So I brought my daughter into the world, and we dealt with drug issues with him, and I had him go to a rehabilitation center to get off of pain medication. And he told me he had. And the day I gave birth to my daughter, he was begging me for my painkillers for having the child and whatnot. And I realized, wow, a mother wants to relish in the joy and the love of having a new baby. And that was all taken from me because I realized I had to get out. And as I was holding her for the first time, the emotions were, man, I made such a horrible mistake. And I had to choose my selfish ways and living the life of luxury because his family had money, the life of not worrying about money ever, or a better life for my children, and seeing an example of what a loving couple should be and what a mother should be when she's truly happy. And I made a real hard decision, but I did decide to leave him and all of our financial assets and leave our home and the life that we knew for the life of living in my parents' basement in Park City, Utah. And fortunately for me, I have a very supportive family, and we're Italian, and we believe you bring your kin in and you help your family at any cost, at any given moment. And I called them and said, we will be coming. We have nothing. I'm getting on a plane. And they said, come. And they opened up their home and their arms to us. We moved into the basement of my parents' home. And I cried myself to sleep the first night, and I said, I will be here for 1 year, and I will reinvent myself to be the woman that I know I'm supposed to be. It won't be easy, it won't be fun, but it will get done. And I reinvented myself from a woman who couldn't work outside the home, couldn't have her entrepreneurial spirit growing and developing, it was stifled, to being, it was like a writing your own book. The chapters are yours. And I just decided to surround myself with nothing but positive people to do what I wanted to do for the betterment of my 2 children, and that with the help of my parents. So I reinvented myself and tapped into what was I good at. And as you mentioned earlier in the show here, that the best thing I was good at was selling. And then I opened up, well, actually, I worked for my sister. I didn't open up anything on my own at that point. My sister gave me a job, and I was flourishing her business to where she says, I want you to manage this. And I did super well for her, and then I opened up the furniture aspect of the store. And I would go around and get furniture and repair it and rebuild it. And anyways, my entrepreneurial spirit just took off. And then I reinvented myself in many ways, and then also as a Mary Kay saleswoman. And I was very good at that and did very well, and became the #1 saleswoman of 6,000 women. And that's when I was able to get out of my parents' home 1 week prior to the year. And we moved in on our own, and I met the man of my dreams, and I dated him for 1.5 years. And he asked me to marry him and the children, and we moved to Iowa to start our life together. And I watched season 1 of The Apprentice, and I turned to him and I said, baby, are you okay with me leaving for a while? Because I'm going to apply to be on that show, and I know they're going to call me, and I'm going to go kick some butt. And he said, go for it. And that's kind of how I got out of the basement, but I still had to do a lot more work. So maybe I'll let you ask me a question there.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean that's an amazing story. And so there was, let me go back. There must have been a defining moment, like a day, a time, and you have that in your memory of that defining moment where you said, I'm going to go from here to here. So from this place all the way up to here. In addition, you talk about reinventing yourself, and a lot of people have done that, maybe several times over. But what is it that people have to have, do you think, do you feel, do you have an opinion on what they must have to be able to reinvent themselves?
That's a great question, Jim. The first thing that comes to my mind, and the reason that I know I've succeeded, is I'm fearless. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm so strong and nothing scares me. But you have to be able to jump into stuff and be willing to not worry about what people think of you, what they're going to. People all have an opinion, and I think that if you let people stop you from your dreams, you'll never succeed. So I would say fearless and resourceful are hand in hand in what it takes to be successful, because I didn't want to count on anybody. I didn't want to rely on my parents. You know, yes, they gave me the roof over the head and the refrigerator full with food. That's a lot more than a lot of women, you know, going on their own even have. So that I'm very grateful for. But I could have stuck around for an extra 2-3 years and milked it for all it was worth. But no, I wanted to be a provider, and I wanted to do it on my own, whatever that took. And what I noticed when I consult with people is they're not willing to go too far. They're not willing to get their hands too dirty. They're not willing to work the extra hours. They're not willing to swallow their pride to say, yeah, I'll clean your toilets. I need to put food on the table. Sure, I'll clean your apartment. I'll clean your house. I'll clean your office. I'll scrub your floors. And people today they won't do that. And I would do whatever it took to be able to say, I can feed my children. And I mean, so resourceful and being fearless, and I think go hand in hand, because if you're fearful of, well, what would Jim think if I'm asking to clean his office? I mean, that would be embarrassing because Jim knows that I used to have money, and then you get all wrapped up into pride. And when people need to reinvent themselves, they need to say, I need to reinvent myself for a reason, because what I'm doing isn't working.
Well, Tana, you can come over and clean my office anytime, really. It needs a lot of cleaning. So there's people out there who might ask themselves, okay, well, still, how do I get that fearlessness? I mean, I agree with you. I think it takes a lot of fearlessness to do something like today. And I appreciate everybody joining us, by the way, today, because this is our first one. We've never done this before, right, Tana?
Right. This is a new chapter in both of our careers. We got to start somewhere.
It's all about trying and not really caring, what other people think. Although we do care what everybody thinks here. It's just the fact that you can't go in thinking that.
Right. You can't be worrying about pleasing everybody, because the only person you really need to please is yourself and whomever else you have to be responsible for. If you're single and you're, joining us, I would say go and do what you want to do. Open the business you've always wanted to open, or work for the company you've always wanted to work for. Be mentored by someone that you've always respected and admired. There's nothing holding you back, but there's a lot of people that let fear and doubt completely stop them. And I share in my presentations when I have audiences, I said, the what ifs will paralyze you. The doubt will stifle you. You'll freeze you. And all these people have all this doubt, and they're not sure of themselves. And I'm a very big believer that if you're unsure of yourself, boy, how's anybody else supposed to be sure of you?
And Tana, you have inspired millions of people in addition to thousands of people during your presentations, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other presentations that you do. But now we were in the basement, and now we're at that step. We're not yet near the boardroom,
right?
But it would be really cool to take just a short apprentice break and tell us what was it like being in the boardroom.
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, I have never been so fearful in anything in my life. I've dealt with a lot, as you've heard, and left a husband and lived in my parents' basement and had to start businesses and had to make ends meet. But Donald Trump is a very intimidating man. If you get intimidated easily, I don't get intimidated easily because my father-in-law, the ex-father-in-law, was a very strong personality, similar to Donald Trump's. And I believe he prepped me for handling someone like Trump. But one wrong word, one misquote, one misrepresentation of yourself, one rude comment to a CEO that he respects, you're fired. And so the pressure was so intense of keeping your A game up. Because, I mean, I was there with 17 other killer type A successful go-getters. If you think, you're doing well in your small town, or let's say your big city and you're the big fish, in a small pond, let me tell you what, you go to New York City and work for Donald Trump with 17 other really go-getters, awesome people, you have never experienced anything like it. And going into that boardroom, I mean, he asks these hard questions and you have got to be able to maintain your composure, or he'll look at you like you're weak and fire you. That's why a lot of people get fired, is just on weakness, not so much they screwed up on the task. It's, you're showing me a side of you that I don't like, you're fired.
And what's interesting too is that there were two teams, Book Smart and Street Smart, and one was called Magna, right?
Yes.
And your team was called Net Worth.
Right.
So you were on the Street Smarts team, which I think is very cool because I consider myself more street smart than book smart.
Right.
And you guys came out, what, 9 to 5 that year, and those guys came out 10 to 4 as far as...
Oh, I know. We were just killing it. Yeah. And there were so many times, well, first off, when they merged the teams, which, I hated. So now, there's half street smart, half book smart. And so he'd give us a task and I'd be like, come on, let's go. And we get in the boardroom and, all right, who wants to be project manager? Well, okay, do you have any experience in the restaurant industry? And I'd go through it. And the book smarts people would be like, wait. Slow down. Let's process this. No, we don't have time to process this. Let's giddy up and get on it. Well, so then we'd, get on to something, and let's just say they'd be, a task would be American Eagle. Well, let's do some research on, the history of American Eagle. I'm like, how about we just go to American Eagle? I have an idea. It's down the street. Let's go into American Eagle. Forget about all the research. So the book smarts people worked so much differently than the street smarts people that I would joke and be like, by the time you get to your manual, the other team's already got great ideas. So it was a different experience for me working with people that were not like-minded. And I'm a big believer that, you're wasting time when you have to spend all this time at analyzing the task. Let's go. Yeah.
You know what? I've got an idea, so let's print it. The Apprentice All-Stars against the Celebrity All-Stars. How about that?
I would love it. But they won't do it because they won't bring us, because we don't have the Rolodex like them. I mean, if we could have somebody donate $10,000 to our favorite charity, yeah, that'd be great. But they're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, well, that's why Trace and Penn are on it right now.
Right.
So, okay, so we're not quite at the boardroom now in your life. What's the next step at that point?
So the next step was I marry this man of my dreams, and I tell him I want to go do something that's actually just for me, for personal satisfaction, for personal growth. And my biggest regret was not finishing college. And I thought, wow, when they set it up, book smarts versus street smarts, I'm like, there's my chance. I know I can do this. And so I wanted to go, and my husband let me go chase my dream. And he held the fort down here with 2 small children. They were 6 and 8. And that's not an easy, that's not easy for a lot of men to do.
And how long were you away for this?
I was gone for 62 days.
Wow.
And I never got to come home. I got to call home. I literally called home, I think, once. He handled everything. And my husband's a meteorologist on the local television station. He's the best meteorologist in the state of Iowa, and he's on 24, like if there's weather, he's got to go. And we've got no family in town. So my mother came in for a month, and my mother-in-law came in for a month. They took a month at a time. And my sweet man, he lived with my mother, and he lived with his mother, so his beautiful wife could go chase her dream, and he was cool with that. And so I go, and I'm succeeding week after week after week, and I came home, and they thought I had gotten fired, and they were speculating, you know, wonder when, and I couldn't tell them, it isn't over yet, babe. I'm probably going to take this all the way to the end, because I really believed that I had won. And he was just waiting it out and just so proud of me. And in my town, well, actually in the whole state, Iowa just embraced this, and women's groups from all over the country were like, we want you to, you know, empower our groups and our women, because they hadn't really seen a strong woman before who was just getting the job done. It wasn't about drama. It wasn't about being mean-spirited. It was, let's do the job at hand and let's do it well. And yes, a woman can succeed. And they just embraced me, and it just went crazy. And so that's how I ended up, you know, I ended up being in the finals, thinking I was going to win it all, and I didn't win it all, but I am the only contestant in the history of The Apprentice that was never hired, but I was never fired by Donald Trump. And I think that was my gift from him, because, you know, it all came down to, I didn't have the degree, even though that's how it was set up. Or they would have, I believe in my heart that they would have probably hired me. But Mr. Trump is a huge advocate of education, and I'm okay with that now. I'm okay with that.
So how were you not fired?
He said, you're hired, but he never said, oh, and by the way, you're fired. He never fired me.
Oh, I got it. Nice. He must have liked you, Tana.
He did like me. The producers told my husband at the after party, you know, Trump said that we were cut from the same cloth, and just some really nice things, but he didn't fire me, which was really cool.
So that made you get to the boardroom now. As far as, let's say there's other people out there listening right now, and they're like, you know, I've heard so many people tell me how to get, you know, from get a seat at the table is what it's big in the industry, especially for women. There's topics out there as far as how to get a seat at the table,
right?
And you know, have that respect at the boardroom table. Is it something that you earn, or is it something that you should just expect?
I believe it's something that you earn. Unfortunately, I wish it would be something that, you know, was a fair game, but it's not. And anybody that's listening that would disagree, there's so many statistics that say men are still earning more than women. Yes, we are working our way. Arizona is the #1 state where women are the closest to making what men make, but it's got to be earned. And I have a presentation called Climbing the Corporate Ladder in High Heels. And it is for women that want to succeed, want to go to the next level, want to be in the boardroom, want to be right there with the CEOs and upper management. And I talk about some tips. I know we don't have the time to cover this today, Jim, but just to give your audience a little bit of what could possibly be some of those tips, you keep your emotions out of it. When I applied to be on the show, or actually when I was cast on the show, I had a 750 questionnaire, or test, I should say, on my personality and the psychological profile of myself. And then it was digested and dissected by a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And they sat me down and told me every single thing about myself that I had already knew. And I was like, wow, that all came from that test? And they said yes. And what I learned, and I believe it's a big attribute to why I succeed, is they said I think like a man. And the mechanism that most women have that is all emotional and dramatic and impulsive and gets you all crazed and makes you get all dramatic and lose your control, I don't have. That's why I have more male friends than female. That's why any man I ever dated wants to marry me. They told me this. I'm not bragging. And it was all true what he's saying. He was like, how many boyfriends have you had? And I'm like, tell him. Have they all asked you to marry him? Yeah. How would you know that? And so that he dissected it and just more or less said, you don't have the tendencies that a normal woman with the same makeup has. And I asked him what they were. And it was emotional stability is what I have. So I try to teach other women, how do you pretend to have it under control maybe when you don't? So I have a CD called Fake It Till You Make It, where I teach people, primarily women, don't show those flaws or don't show those weaknesses. Don't have the tendency to want to spew out of your mouth things that aren't going to get you up the corporate ladder. So emotional stability is one of them. Impulsiveness is another one. You can't promise things that you're not going to deliver on because men don't do that. And so the things that men don't do that women do that he said I don't do, I'm just sharing them. And I have a very no-nonsense approach because we don't have time to be fluffing it all up and getting it all pretty and packaging it so that the women don't get their feelings hurt. That's not what my job is. My job is to help these women succeed. They don't need another girlfriend that's like, oh, you were so good when you started to cry. No, I say don't cry in the boardroom. Don't cry at work. And women go, but that's what I do. Well, honey, that's not what you should be doing. So those are just a few things that I share in that presentation.
And I like what you said about taking all emotion out of it. I happen to have been, I'm the past president of 2 associations here in Chicago for the meetings and events hospitality industry. And, you know, I had a board of 18, and that was one of the first remarks I had suggested to them was
really?
Take all emotion out of it. It's not about you. This is an actual organization. It's a business, and you have the chance to be a part of it. So, but it's about the member of that association. You got to remember the member in everything you do, and just take all emotion out of it. And then, let's say you don't agree with something, and there's 18 people around the table. You have to, at the end of the day, when that gavel hits the table, and everybody, you know, the motion carried for something you didn't want in the beginning, you walk out of there as a unity.
Right.
And the message is, yes, it carried.
You are so right, Jim. That is exactly what it is. A lot of women don't like to hear it, but they need to hear it. I had a lady, I kept coaching her, and she wanted to move up in an organization here in Iowa, and she was on her way, and she was having interviews, and I was coaching her along the interview process because I was interviewed by 5 CEOs, Domino's, QVC, I can't even remember the other ones, and they all said to Trump, I'd hire Tana. So I talk about in the interview process, don't share too much. Don't be pulling the mom card too much because they don't care how we do work-life balance. That's our problem as working women. Don't put it on their plate. And then she kept going and talking about her children and the young children, and she was a single mom, and they didn't give her the job. So I said, ask for some constructive criticism about why. And everything that we worked on, she went in, she got emotional, she shared the thing about the kids and that she had no help and that she was a single mother, and they just said she was too much of a liability to take on in this upper management role, and they didn't think, and it was just, and I said, why? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
He said, I forgot everything I was taught.
Oh. Well, by the way, just to kind of take another Apprentice break, I wore my Donald Trump tie.
You look so good.
I don't wear suits either. And by the way, I'm looking at it. I don't know what's red on my face or the tie. And you know, I was out in the sun a little bit, and I look like a lobster, for crying out loud.
You look great, Jim.
Well, thank you. So if women come up to you, I know you do these presentations, but women come up to you and they ask you questions, I'm sure, after your presentation. What are some of those questions that you can think of, and what would you say to them?
Well, I get asked a lot, have I always been this motivated? Have I always been this driven? Or is this something that's newfound? And that's a great question, because I guess I assumed that people would figure that, you know, you are who you are from your childhood, I believe. And so, but maybe not. I'm surprised I get that at one time at every presentation. The answer is yes, I've always been self-motivated, very driven. I've always had the drive to succeed. I've always wanted more. I've always loved a challenge. And so I can see by the woman or the man that's asking me this that that's not their makeup. So I share with them some tips how they can, if they're not like me, highly motivated and driven, how they can tap in to their own unique power. And sometimes it's the fake it till you make it CD that helps them. Or sometimes I just give them some simple suggestions as, do you associate with negative people? And they'll say, well, of course. And I say, well, don't. Oh, how am I going to do that? It's really simple. You don't associate with people that are negative. I've had people that I've worked with that are negative and want to create drama on the phone with me. I don't have time for that. And so I'll give her a warning. Hey, I just want to let you know that doesn't work for my style. And everybody here at the Hey Tana team, we're super positive. We're very encouraging. We're supportive of one another. And you need to stop with that. And if she won't stop, then I need to cut her loose, because I can't have someone around me that is a negative force. Mm-hmm. And I share that you shouldn't either. And they go, wow, my best friend and my spouse and my coworker and my boss, they're all negative. Ooh. So then I try to help them with that. So that's one question I get all the time. And I get, how do you build your confidence? How come you're so confident? How can I be more confident? And I talk about, telling people what you're good at. Let someone know, what you're really good at, because we're all really good at something. And I may not be good at what you're good at, Jim, and you may not be good at what some of the people that are on the call or on the chat are good at. We're all different. And I share that we should be looking at our differences in one another rather than our similarities. So let's say I'm hanging with a girl that's a motivational speaker. Well, we shouldn't be talking about being great motivational speakers. We should be looking at one another, seeing what else can I bring to the table here? Oh, I'm an author, and you're a baker? Oh, great. Tell me about that. So then I can make her feel super great about maybe something that I'm not good at. And a lot of times people don't really like to talk about their accolades or their awards, and here in the Midwest we feel like that's just being overly zealous, or you're bragging, or I'm just been raised to be a humble person, and that's all true. But you do it in a way that is fitting. Like, I wouldn't walk down the street and tell people that Donald Trump didn't fire me. Oh, aren't I so great? But because we're discussing the behind the scenes or something that somebody doesn't know, I only share that with you if you've asked that. So, there's a time for the sharing of the I'm so great, moments. And people don't do that enough.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty cool story, though. I didn't know that he didn't fire you, and I wonder how many people he hasn't fired. But it sounds like you're one of them.
Yeah, I researched it, and I'm the only one. Every other finale, it's been you're fired, you're hired, you're fired, you're hired, but not mine.
You never had to hear that,
right? So then people don't know that.
So there, a lot of these challenges that you're talking about too, men have as well. And
absolutely.
Even at the boardroom table and everywhere else. So it's not just women. And in our industry, we have a lot of very strong meeting and event professionals that have the similar problems or challenges at work, and they're looking for that solution. So is there any tips that you might know or have experience with of being able to find a solution to any challenge?
Well, that's a great question. One of my tips for success is to be a hero, not a zero, and to be a problem solver. So fix your problems, but fix them fast. And there's always a solution to a problem. So it can be anything from the project, like let's just say this just occurred to me. So someone at Wells Fargo that I deal with a lot, his project got delayed, and he's a project manager. Well, okay, the solution may not be immediate to the problem, but you're still going to tackle the problem and the project daily and maybe add a little bit, 10 minutes more a day. So that one, there's not a solution immediately, but there's a solution to every problem. And what a lot of people do, Jim, in my opinion, they do it wrong. They did it on the show wrong, so I know they're doing it wrong in corporate America, is they like to pass the buck. Okay, so now you know, the materials didn't arrive for the job, and now they're holding up all the contractors. Well, who's to say you can't get in your own truck, go pick up the materials? Yeah, the delivery man didn't show up at the lumberyard, but you got a truck, you can go get after it. But a lot of people don't think outside the box. They don't think, hey, I can empower myself and my team and make myself look like a hero by solving this problem by just using my brain. Now, what can I do to bring value to the situation? And there's a lot of times we can solve the problem without even involving management, without involving another human being, without creating all this drama and all this tension and all this chaos, by simply going, what would be a simple solution to this problem? I mean,
yeah, I think it's almost, it's kind of like, you know, I equate it to acting because, you know, I've done some of the acting. And when you're on stage and you can't be thinking, what if I forget my line? You know, what if I don't remember this or remember that? You just got to go with it. And
trust.
You got to be calm. You have to be, you know, you have to just do what you need to do at that point and not let the audience show that what's inside you, whether it's nervousness or you don't know what you're doing. I mean, it sounds like you did that for how many stressful weeks on The Apprentice?
I was on TV for 18 weeks, and I learned the fake it till you make it method very quickly. And when I came home from New York City, not being able to tell a soul that I was still in the finale and I hadn't gotten fired yet, I got home and my entire family, like I told you, we're a large Italian family. They all wanted to be here to surprise me. And my husband's like, I really think Tana will want to rest. And oh, heck no. So I had a house full of company when I arrived home for a big surprise welcoming home party. And I was so tired, I could not get out of bed. So I went to the doctor. I said, something's wrong with me because I am always high energy. I don't have bad days, thank goodness. And I went to the doctor, and he gave me a blood work, and he said, your adrenal gland has completely shut down. Your fight or flight syndrome, that's the cortisol that's in the adrenal gland, has been going nonstop for over 2.5 months. You're shut down. You're like bedridden for 2-3 days. We have to pump you with vitamins. And I caused damage to my body because it was full throttle. He gave us the task. We did the task resolution, interviews, go, next day for 18 tasks. And it was grueling.
Now, they cut those up pretty well. They edited it down to an hour or 2 hours. I mean, how long were you actually on those tasks? I mean, how long did you...
Oh, we worked nonstop. So 3 days at a time. 3 days to do the task, to get the task resolution, interviews, next task. So that's how we were able to do 18 in 62 days. Well, I was, because I was there from the beginning to the end. So there was no downtime. You got a half a day to maybe take a nap, but that was it. That was only on a Sunday.
Well, what's interesting is that in our industry, we plan meetings and we plan events. What you were doing on The Apprentice was you were actually planning events. So
yes, we were.
We all have challenges during events as well. So did you run into any challenges? And then if so, and I'm sure you did, what were some of the solutions, or just tell us about those challenges and how you rectified those?
Well, there were so many. I could go back to the tasks, every single one of them, and there's always a glitch. As you know, you always have to have a plan B. And I'm not a control freak, but trusting others to do the job and do it well is something I struggle with. So when you're on the show and you're asking Kinko's to print you 1,000 flyers and you double checked it, and the 19-year-old at Kinko's puts blue font instead of black font, and you're like, what? That doesn't, what are you to do at that moment? So time was of the essence. So a lot of it is realizing this isn't detrimental to me succeeding as an event planner or as a Apprentice finale. It's not going to make or break the job. But we get so consumed with it's not done our way and it wasn't done right and it was somebody else's error that we get paralyzed. So a lot of it was going, okay, I can deal with this. But everything from the print ads not getting printed right to models not showing up on time, pushing us back 2 hours, to weather, to Kinko's printing something that was a sidebar that they weren't supposed to print, to just everything. I mean, it could be everything from the athletes to my final task didn't get on the plane and I needed them there, to I had to put on a sand volleyball tournament, a gymnastics meet, a track meet, and a swim meet, all in, you know, one day. That's doable, right?
Right.
And,
so let's go back to that. The team was on a plane; they couldn't get there. I mean, what are your feelings at that point, and then how did you provide a solution to that?
My feelings were something that I don't like to swear when I'm in a professional setting, so it was an oh poop moment. But it's I panic. And since panicking isn't going to get me anywhere, it was I have to regroup and shift. So then I did some serious looking and had to do a Google search to find Olympians that could come and save my bacon in New York City. So didn't have to hop on a plane. Another challenge was, as I was saying, I had to put on a sand volleyball tournament. And I would have assumed that the AVP, American Volleyball Profession, would have provided me the bulldozer full of the sand. But when I got there at the Chelsea Piers, there was no sand to be found. So how do you find sand on Friday night at 5 p.m. when you are having a task Saturday the next day? You have a lot of panicking moments. But money talks and money gets the job done. And I dug in and dug deep for the finances and paid people lots of money to get the job done.
You know, that's so just perfect. I mean, that's our industry. That happens all the time. I mean, buses may not show up or one's smoking under Wacker Drive. And
right.
You know, it doesn't matter. I mean, you did the best you can to plan this whole event. And all of a sudden, something went wrong. You know, you got the best bus company and everything else, but brands don't matter. I mean, when the engine's bad, the engine is bad.
Right.
So what I like is that you're talking about Plan B. And I think, if I recall right, there was a Plan B team on one of the apprentices.
Yeah, that's this one right now, Celebrity Apprentice. His name is Plan B. And another thing that came to my mind, I'm going to have post-traumatic stress tonight. I just hope you know, Jim, talking about all this. But
Nightmares for Tana, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll deal with it. I'll just keep myself up all night because of this. No, I'm teasing. But another thing was, so my gymnasts are doing their meet and everything's going great, and somebody, and it wasn't Nadia Comaneci, but someone came over to me and said, oh, just so you know, I'm sponsored by Dasani, and I can't drink the Aquafina water that you're providing. Oh, wasn't that great? Okay. And so I'm like, is this a joke for TV? Are you being serious? And she said, oh, no, I'm serious. I'm under contract. My agent will kill me. I'll lose my contract. I can't drink that water. So once again, you got to get resourceful, and you got to get resourceful fast. And see, what a lot of people like to do, Jim, and I know you've experienced this, is and then the whole getting into the emotion of, well, that's really rude. Who does she think she is? Well, let me talk to the agent. Let me make some calls. No, stop. The woman doesn't drink the water. The woman needs the water because she's performing and competing. I got to get the girl the water. What am I going to do? So got on the horn, called somebody that I knew within my team, and asked him, yes, to drive 30 minutes to go get cases of this water to please the Olympian. It had to be done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to get done. And you get paralyzed with because my team was like, well, that's just ridiculous. It may seem ridiculous, but it is our reality. So get going, please, because we got to please this person.
There are so many event planners out there like going, yay, Tana. I mean, that's exactly what they go through. I mean, I've heard
terrible. I mean, you guys know, you get celebrities, I'm sure, that have requested, it's like, oh, you only want the orange M&Ms? Okay. I'm sorry this bag didn't have but two, but let me get to the nearest Target. Not a
Yep.
problem.
Yep. And then we get really good celebrities. I actually run a green room for what is the Magnificent Mile Lights Festival here in Chicago. So I run all the talent back and forth, and I'm kind of the contact for all the talent. And I've ran into some really good talent. Some of the kids coming out right now who are, on the Disney station and all that kind of stuff, and American Idols, those kids are so nice when they come in. But then we get some of the seasoned talent, and that's when we're like, holy, like we need to get them chairs because they can't stand longer than at the parade route, and so it's unbelievable. But that's right, and a lot of people want to get into event planning, and they think it's so glamorous, which I always tell them. I say that you're going to be running buses. I mean, you like to smell a diesel fuel.
Right. You got to be willing to wear a lot of hats.
A lot of decisions to be made. Just like you with The Apprentice, you don't have that glamorous $300,000 budget. You've got, like you said, not a dollar in your pocket.
Right. We got a little budget, and we tried to market, to use it wisely. But I always kept some back for the emergencies. And there were plenty of emergencies. When I go to speak and I'm the talent, I see what the event coordinators go through, and the event planners are trying so hard to make everything work perfectly. And they all say, I'm super easy to work with, but it's other people, AV people, technicians aren't doing their part, sound people aren't doing their part. They didn't bring the right microphone, or they don't have this, and just so many things. And I just look at the poor event planner and I think, you did your job, but they're not doing theirs. And that's what's so hard and so frustrating. But you just have to, you're the captain of the ship, and you got to keep it all sailing smoothly.
Absolutely. And we're kind of running into the hour, so we're going to try to keep these at an hour, make them educational and whatnot. What I would really love to do, Tana, is I would love to have you back on the show.
That'd be awesome.
And I would love to actually get the viewer, you out there looking right now, I would love for you to join Google Plus and then join the Chicago Event Planning Group. Because now, if you do so, actually, be in one of my circles. So if you don't understand, just go to Google, sign up for Google Plus, and then seek me out, Jim Grillo, Jim, Grillo, and then ask to be in my circle. Now, what we can do is invite, I believe it's up to 9 people to be on the Google Plus. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it's 9, right? But we could have Tana and then either 8 or 9 of you along with us. We'll also set up the chat feature for next time so we can take your questions.
That'd be cool.
It's kind of a kickoff.
That'd be really cool. Yes. No, I think connecting with them, and I'm on, as you know, Google too, so they can connect with me, and we can definitely take their questions. I'd love to answer any questions that they may have.
And you can get a hold of Tana at Hey Tana. That's Hey, HEYTANA.com. Or you can search her on herechicago.com as well. She also, on her website, will have her Twitter and Facebook, and there's her email and everything else. So you can contact Tana and ask her any questions that you may have from today. But we'd love to have you back. You've got some very interesting topics. Name a few. I know there was one that I thought would be great to kick it off, but then during our phone conversation, you had told me about this. I'm like, oh my God, this would be perfect.
From the basement to the boardroom. Yeah, that's always fun. I got Catch the Entrepreneurial Spirit. I have Sales, the Thrill of the Hunt, where I love to talk to people that are in the sales force, just to how to be a better salesperson, how to relish the conquer of the sale. That really excites me. Entrepreneurialism very much excites me. Helping the women from the basement to the boardroom. I've got one that's called God Will Never Fire You for faith-based groups and churches, and that one is really a lot behind the scenes of the show. So really my realm is everything from sales to entrepreneurialism to women to helping tap into your own DNA and your power, to the church, to prison groups. I mean, I've just, anything that I can help encourage personal and business development to make you a better person is in my wheelhouse of expertise and sales. Other than that, you know.
And you talked to prison groups. I remember you told me this, and I found that very intriguing.
Yes, I talked to prison groups because I know for time we weren't able for me to dive very deeply into the story of my first husband. But when I did leave him, he did end up getting himself into jail, and I always felt like if I wasn't a strong woman, I would have done the drugs with him, I would have drank with him, I would have committed maybe some crimes with him, and I would have possibly ended up in jail, because a lot of the women that are in jail are there for they're all there for their own mistakes and choices, but there's 90% of the women, the research that I did, are there because a man coaxed them to make this bad choice. And that scared me because I could have been that statistic. So I share with the women my experience and what I learned, and I give them hope that, you know, you can make better choices. And I have an incentive program where they're good behavior. They can come and hear the first speech, and then we give them more and more and more until they come out, and the rehabilitation process. And I clothe them with clothing. I've got a whole thing for giving them clothes, and it's a big success day for them to get clothed and nourished on the inside and the outside and go out into the world and make a difference, because it's not the end. And so I share that because he was a man in prison.
Well, Tana, I really appreciate you doing this today. I mean, it was unbelievable having you here.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
On debut.
We did it.
Yes, we did. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Just a reminder, this is going to be on YouTube, so it lives forever in infinity on YouTube. So we're going to post the YouTube link on our Facebook page, on our Twitter.
Awesome.
And it's also going to be on YouTube as well. So if you search out the basement to the boardroom with Tana Goertz, you are going to find this on YouTube, and you can share it with your friends. We hope you do.
Yeah, we do.
Love to invite you back. We'll try to get more people involved to ask questions, so it's just not me. I won't wear a red tie again, so more casual, but I had to do it for the first time.
You look so good.
Thank you so much for being here, Tana. Thanks, everybody, for viewing. We'll see you next time. Visit our Facebook page to find out what's next right here.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very
much. See you
much.
later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.